On another day, Eileen called me into her office and said, "I want you to go help out at the nursery. They're short-staffed." I followed her directions as I walked the 20 or so blocks to a small windowless building on Franklin Street. So this is where they keep the children, I thought to myself, suddenly realizing that I had seen no young children in the weeks I had been in Scientology, even though I knew many of the staff were married. As I passed the fenced backyard, I saw a dozen toddlers wandering around in the dirt, clothed only in diapers. There was no grass in the yard, just several large trees surrounded by dirt. The children had no toys and were playing with each other or using their hands to draw pictures in the dirt. I went to the door on the far side of the building, on which was a small blue and white sign printed, "Cadet Org, Church of Scientology." I was led in the building, and as I looked around, I was greeted by a dismal sight. The walls of the rooms and the hallway surrounding me were painted stark white. The floors were a dull gray and dirty linoleum. There were no pictures on the walls, no decorations of any kind. Wandering the hallways and in the 2 rooms, I could see several dozen children dressed only in diapers and t-shirts. Most looked as if they had not been bathed recently. Several carried bottles, but most were just wandering in the hallway or sleeping on the bare floor. The rooms were bare of furniture, and there were no toys, books, or any of the normal and familiar signs of childhood. I could smell urine in the room, and I heard many small voices crying plaintively. A young girl in a Sea Org uniform came up to me and greeted me. She was one of 2 staff members in charge of all these children. "Where do you keep their toys and books?" I asked the young girl, whose name was Colleen. The clips for this week's show are excerpted from the online book The Road to Xenu by Margery Wakefield. According to an old Alien Talk message board, Margery became an activist regarding the Church of Scientology before there was all the support available. There's been since the advent of the internet community, and before there was the knowledge of what cause really is all about, with their ability to harass and intimidate when people were isolated and easy targets. She wrote The Road to Xenu when she was still actually in fear of cause and reprisals, but wrote it anyway. There have been comments here regarding Margery's book, The Road to Xenu, which helped many people wake up to cause and helped many people who had similar experiences and thought they were the only ones to heal. Here's a comment from Margery I'm posting with her request regarding The Road to Xenu. The character of Eileen was Yvonne Gillum-Jinch. The character of Antonia was Mario Fenninger, both of Celebrity Center. Most of Road to Xenu is not fictional, but is based on my memories. At the time I wrote it, I was afraid to use real names. Maybe one of these days I will rewrite it and post it on the net with real names and all real events. Margery Wakefield.
I'm a cake-eating man. I eat my cake when I can. I love a dapper flapper who showed a dimple name and likes to do her loving in the naughty lingerie. My honey babe will be there, oh, with my shoe polished hair. For I'm a never-loving, aggravating, cookie-pushing, cake-eating man. 'Cause I'm a cake-eating man. I eat my cake when I can. I like a satin spoon underneath the moon and drag my baby home just about noon. My honey babe will be there, oh, with my shoe polished hair. For I'm a never-loving, aggravating, cookie-pushing, cake-eating man. I'm a cake-eating man, honey babe. I eat my cake when I can. I got a gal, and she's red hot, can take anything most any man's got. My honey babe will be there, oh, with my shoe polished hair. For I'm a never-loving, aggravating, cookie-pushing, cake-eating man, cake-eating man.
They don't have any, she answered in an expressionless voice. Children are down statistics, and you don't reward down statistics. That's in the tech. But what do they do all day? I asked her, noticing that many of the children had a forlorn look about them. I had a sudden instinct to grab as many children as I could and run out the door. We just watch them. They play in the backyard. If their parents' stats are up, they can come and see their children for an hour or so after dinner. Do they sleep here? I asked her. Yes, most of them do. She showed me a room further down the hallway. In the room were rows of cribs, side by side, about a dozen in all in this small room. Some of the Sea Org children stay here, and some are sent to a ranch in Mexico if their parents are going to be on a mission for a long time, she explained. But don't the parents miss their children? I asked. Remember, she told me severely, children are part of the second dynamic. The third dynamic, the group, is more important than the second dynamic. The rule in Scientology is the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. Our main purpose in Scientology is to clear the planet. Don't ever forget that. Until the children can begin to work for the group, they are down stats and they can't be rewarded. Besides, Hubbard says that children are just thetans in small bodies. They're just as responsible as adults. We have to get their ethics in, so we don't reward them until they can produce. At that, she led me into a back room in which there was a solitary playpen. In the playpen was a tiny baby, female and horribly deformed. Her face was grotesque and distorted and her body twisted. One leg was shorter than the other, and her arms were abnormally short and not properly formed.
Cherokee chief as he dances along. He does an old Indian boogie while he sings a song. Say, hey ho, Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say, ho ho, Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say, hey ho, Helena. Ho ho, now with you now, hey. When he dances over here and he dances over there, he's dancing with his swall called Standing Bear. Say ho ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say ho ho Helena. Ho ho now with you now hey. But he dances in a trot and he dances in a walk and he keeps on shaking his old-timey hawk. Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena. Ho ho now with you now hey. A little soft and he sings a little loud, but he always thrills the Indian crowd. Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena. Hey hey now with you now hey. He's the Cherokee chief, as you all might know, when he sings his boogie. Geronimo, say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say hey ho Helena.
Ho, Helena.
Say ho ho Helena. Ho ho now with you now hey.
This is Lisa, Colleen informed me. Her mother is on staff. She took LSD when she was pregnant. She bent over the edge of the pen and stroked the baby's head. The baby seemed to be having trouble breathing, and her eyes looked clouded. She's blind, but she can hear you. We just talk to her and hold her, but I don't think she's going to live very long. Colleen reached down and picked up the poor creature and handed her to me. I spent the rest of the day holding and walking with baby Lisa. I walked around and tried to make contact with some of the other children. They crowded around me, desperate for attention. At the end of the day, I left the building and walked home, numb with the shock of what I had seen during the day. From that day, whenever I received any money from home or had any money left from my meager Sea Org pay, I would walk over to the drugstore on Alvarado Street and buy cheap children's books or crayons for the children of the Cadet Org. I returned to the Cadet Org several days later for another babysitting shift and was told that baby Lisa had died 2 days earlier. On payday, Friday, we all lined up outside the center and waited for the director of finance to show up with our pay. A mobile canteen unit had drawn up into the parking lot, I noticed, to take advantage of our weekly affluence. I waited in anticipation for my first Scientology pay. Having been without income for some time, I had a list of priorities to satisfy with my pay, ranging from toothpaste to an unaccustomed dinner out at a local diner with fellow staff members. Finally, the finance person appeared with a box of small brown envelopes. The names were called one by one. I waited eagerly. I had worked hard my first week in the Sea Org, an average of 16 to 18 hours a day for 7 days, with 2.5 hours off on Saturday for personal time.
you. He is called an auditor. He will hook you up to a machine that's called an emitter.
What is an e-meter? What does an e-meter look like?
There are two electrodes that you hold so tightly in your hands. Then he turns it on and you will feel a shock running through your glands. But don't be scared. Throw off your cares and open up to Mr. Auditor.
Mr. Auditor? Who is that? And what does he do?
He will ask you many questions and he will watch the e-meter dial. He will see what makes you sad and he will see what makes you smile. There is energy in your mind that moves the dial when you feel things. He will watch it and he'll watch you. He will help and he will heal things. Yes, he's here to heal. Yes, he's for real. So open up to Mr. Auditor. You can tell him all your problems. He will listen. He will solve them. You can enjoy sleepless nights. Just hold cozy. Let's rose tight. He'll make it all right. Oh, he will make it all right. Do you smile much? Are you a slow eater? Does emotional music have an effect on you? Does talking in front of people make you nervous? Do you ever get a dream-like feeling towards life when it all seems unreal? Do you sometimes wonder if anyone really cares? Do you sometimes wonder if anyone really cares? Do you sometimes wonder? Do you sometimes wonder if really cares? Anyone really cares? Do you sometimes wonder? Sometimes wonder if anyone really cares? Do you sometimes wonder if anyone really cares?
Finally, my name was called. I reached for my envelope, I opened it up and found a receipt and money enclosed for exactly $2.11. I stared in disbelief. Maybe there had been a mistake. I went up to the finance officer. I only got $2.11, I stammered to the uniformed officer. He took the receipt from me and looked at the figures. No, that's right, he assured me. It was a slow week, but according to your units, that is the correct pay. Maybe next week will be better. He handed me back the receipt. I walked away feeling deflated. My plans for shopping, for dinner with friends, faded into the sunset. I looked over at the canteen. I walked over, selected a sandwich and a can of soda. $2! The canteen owner reached out his hand toward me for the money. Oh well, I thought, handing him the money. So much for payday. In the several years that I was to work for Scientology, the highest pay I ever remember receiving was $11.20. How do you survive? I asked another girl who was on staff. She looked at me and laughed. Some of us work as topless dancers, she told me, at night, after hours. It's the only way to get along on this pay. I was suddenly conscious of my chronically somewhat overweight body. I sighed. I would have to find another way to survive economically. For the moment, though, I went to the phone and placed a collect call to my father. Maybe he could increase the small allowance he had been sending me to help with my studies.
cult. They're gonna use and abuse you, child or adult. Scientology or Shinrikyo, Branch Davidians are the followers of Jim Jones. I hate to state generalities, but there's similarities. Split personalities, they show the world one face, the followers get another, disguised as religion, stealing mind and money undercover. Scientology specifically gives followers the goals of becoming OT. OT stands for Operating Patent, a being in control of the creation of matter, energy, space, and time by using the technology that Hubbard left behind to destroy the conscience or reactive mind and attain godhood in your own lifetime. But there's no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one. Since there's no OTs, not one, we can learn important lessons from those who entered the trap and came limping back to tell us it's whack. First lesson, us and them. Everything good is us, everything bad is them. And them is defined as those who are behind the conspiracy against us in the battle for the mind. It's a really big plot, and everyone who is against us is a part. That's what Scientologists get taught. It's the excuse for when the crooks get caught. Lesson number 2 is separation, moving us apart from them, creating segregation. No worldview but one in your ear, no plan but the cults for you to hear. As the weeks go by, there's a look in your eye, a fanatic in development, a zealot on the rise, deaf to the cries of your family. You say, not when I've got this prize in front of me. Lesson number 3 is full indoctrination, the washing of the brain, total subjugation. Control is reinforced on your mind as your words are redefined. Friends are left behind, you study strange crap for hundreds of hours, lying to yourself that you're developing powers, but you're not.
And you know why?
Cause there's no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one. Lesson number 4 is disillusion. Walk away dizzy with emotional contusions, escape the confusion, destroy the illusion, return to the real world fusion. Lesson number 5 is when you make it out alive and grow and thrive despite the way they tried to make you take a dive. You show them you'll survive no matter how they connive or what jive they contrive. So learn these 5 lessons well, because they can save you from a guided tour of hell. A trip where you lose your money and your family, a journey that robs you of your dignity and sanity. There's no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one. If there was one OT, would you be calling them wrong, or hearing this song, or singing along? Take it from me, sure as nothing is free, that L. Ron was a con and there are no OTs. No OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one, no OTs, not anywhere, no OTs, not one.
During the weeks that followed, I would occasionally receive small checks from my father, which I would cash in the finance office. With these small windfalls, I could occasionally afford to go with the executives and more highly paid staff members to have dinner at the small diner right behind the LA org. It was always a treat to enjoy the camaraderie of friends and the luxury of dining away from the staff house. Mounted on the wall in the diner was a small black and white television. We usually arrived at the diner just a few minutes after 6 o'clock, just as the new science fiction program Star Trek was being broadcast. However, I soon discovered that Scientologists watched this program from an entirely different perspective than did WOGs. WOG is the Scientology term for non-Scientologists, taken from an Old English expression and acronym for Worthy Oriental Gentlemen, a derogatory term used to refer to the non-English natives of the British colonies. "It's just old space opera," one staff member joked as we watched an episode. "They don't know it, but they're really just running their own time track." What he meant was that the events on the program were actually real events that had happened long ago. The Star Trek writers were just remembering events in their own distant past, events which were common to us all. To a Scientologist, this program had a special relevance. To us, this program was our history.
message came. With one kiss from her lips, I was lost in the dark and not prepared to see her love depart from me in the midst. I got caught up in her web with the doody-doo. She knows how to do the doody-doo. Her breath is on my mind, removing all thoughts from my brain. I twist and turn in my sleep, thinking of the idea I just got to be. I thought I was a lover so well, and all it took was one kiss from her thunderous lips. She knows how to do the doody-doo. Like the all singing, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and the White House singing. Too much, too little, too late, and the Temptation singing. Ain't too proud to beg, while Margery's in the band will sing. It's like a heat wave and Smokey Robinson singing. Wait until tomorrow. Now here we go back to our dues, trying to learn how to do the doody-doo. The doody-doo. The doody-doo. The doody-doo. She knows how to do the doody-doo. She knows how to do the doody-doo.
Michael Meisner was involved in a complicated Scientology plot in the mid-70s to illegally photocopy and steal thousands of government documents from FBI and IRS offices in Washington, D.C. He had been caught by the FBI, however, and although he was back in Scientology custody, he was threatening to turn state's evidence for the FBI and incriminate Scientology in a host of related criminal actions. I had been given the sensitive task as a GO volunteer of going through all of Michael Meisner's supposedly confidential pre-clear and ethics folders and locating any information which could now be used to blackmail him. I was told to be particularly alert for information regarding sexual deviance or criminal behavior. I had to circle anything I found in red ink and tab the page. Because of the project to launder and steal government documents, known in the GO as Operation Snow White, Scientology was involved in a complex court case with the government. The name Snow White had nothing to do with the fairy tale of the same name. The operation was given this name because Hubbard considered that once the church had finished clearing the files of these agencies, they would be Snow White. Scientology had assigned private detectives to investigate the backgrounds of the Justice Department attorneys assigned to the case. My job was to take all the information assembled by the detectives on each attorney and to summarize this information in a series of reports to be used by Scientology attorneys during litigation. It occurred to me that the reports could also be used for blackmail purposes.
Grandma, my teacher says if Grandpa was a girl, that's okay. You can still be married.
If we change the definition of marriage,
God creating Adam and Eve? That was so old-fashioned.
our kids will be taught a new way of thinking.
He should have created Anna and Eve. If my dad married a man, who would be my mom? I'm confused.
Marriage means a mom and a dad. Visit nationformarriage.org.
Grandpa was a girl. Grandpa was a girl. That's okay. That's okay.
Say, baby, put down that pipe and get my pipe up.
That's okay.
I wish I were a lesbian.
Grandpa was a girl. Grandpa was a girl. That's okay. That's okay.
Say, baby, put down that pipe and get my pipe up. Say, baby, put down that pipe and get my pipe up.
That's okay. Grandpa was a girl. Grandpa was a girl. That's okay. That's okay.
A new way of thinking.
My dad married my dad.
I wish I were a lesbian.
Lynched.
Grandma.
Today. 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 Lynched.
Grandma.
Today.
Grandpa was a girl.
One day as I was working on the floor, assembling the timeline, all the events in the life of a person arranged in chronological order, for one particular Justice Department attorney named Raymond Banoon, I was called into the next room for a meeting. Dick, who was my project leader in the GO, was leading the meeting. "We have a problem," he said seriously as he looked around the room at the dozen or so people assembled for the meeting. "Meisner is threatening to leak this whole project to the FBI, and not only this project, but many other GO projects that he knows about. We can't afford a serious leak of this nature when we are already having major problems with a suppressive government in this country. We need a permanent solution to this problem. Does anyone have any suggestions?" The room was silent. No one said a word. Finally, someone asked, "Where is Meisner now, sir?" "We have him in custody," Dick said. After a few seconds he elaborated. "As a matter of fact, he is being kept in a motel room not far from here. I believe he has been handcuffed to a bed." "Do you have a plan?" someone else asked. "What would you suggest?" Dick challenged the person who had asked the question. There was no answer, only an awkward and uncomfortable silence. "Remember," Dick said slowly, his eyes circling the group of us gathered in the room, "Scientology is the only hope for this planet. If we make it, then this planet makes it. If we don't make it, this planet is doomed, destroyed, reduced to a pile of atomic rubble. And this one man has the potential, if he does what he is threatening to do, to destroy it all. Everything that Hubbard has worked for, everything that you and I have worked for, this one man has the ability to destroy everything."
alleged that the Church of Scientology preys on the weak and confused, children, the poor, the depressed, and the addicted, exploiting their loneliness and confusion and subjecting them to mental and physical abuse. Some have even gone so far as to claim that the L in the name L. Ron Hubbard stands for liar. But none of this is true. The truth is, the L stands for Lafayette.
Mama, I know that it's been a while since you've heard my voice, since you've seen my smile. But I've made new friends, and they tell me I'll be part of something special.
So what can we do? He looked to us for an answer. What's the solution? Any ideas? Well, he can't be allowed to escape. You can't let him get to the agency to testify. That's all there is to it. A tall woman in the back of the room spoke up. Yeah, right, another one said. The greatest good for the number of dynamics. That's what Ron says. A man to my left spoke up. What you're saying, Dick, is that it's a no-win situation. Either one person goes or millions of innocent men, women, and children go. That's the choice, right? Either way, someone has to lose. Isn't that what you're saying? We all looked at Dick. I'm afraid you've hit the nail on the head, he replied. That is precisely what we're faced with. An older man in the back with an English accent spoke up. I say you should take him and dump him overboard at sea with weights. Deep six the bastard. Yeah, someone else joined in. Get rid of him once and for all. Any other suggestions? Dick looked around the circle of grim faces. No one answered. Very well, Dick continued. What I can tell you is that the situation will be handled by this time tomorrow. We just didn't want any of you to be surprised. If anyone has a problem with this, I expect you to speak up now. Silence. All right, there's one other matter. We have a continuing problem with Paulette Cooper. She is continuing her campaign to put an end to Scientology. She's the most deadly suppressive that we have at the moment. She's a real danger. I can tell you that Ron is losing patience with all this. He expects us to handle these things. We simply cannot continue to allow one insane person to endanger the survival of everyone else on the planet. She will have to be handled. The job of the Guardian's office is to get ethics in on the planet so that Scientology can expand.
I remember the time I stayed home getting high, stoned to the bone. And about that time my old lady came home. She said, "What you doing getting high? Don't you know that you could die?" Well, I laughed at her. "Hey, Mama, that's a damn old lie." So I kept toking along, singing my song called "Dope Ain't Wrong." Then all of a sudden I got lucky, saw a big old monkey. He said, "Hey man, what's going down? Now I can tell that you turn on, so don't be greedy. Come on, baby, and give me some, and we'll get high." I decided not to be shy and get really high, take some LSD. So I dropped it one morning about 3:15. I nearly blew my tripping mind, thought I was in hell and going blind. And that stupid monkey, turns out he's a junkie, doing time. Well, now you'd think I'd learned my lesson, but I'm confessing that's not so. Even though the LSD and all the heroin has to go. But when it comes to smoking that weed, Lord, I confess I have a special need. And all I want from life is my own marijuana tree, so I can get high.
Handling these situations is simply part of the jobs. Any questions? I looked around. No one spoke up. Nobody said anything for a long time. Finally, Dick broke the silence. Alright everyone, back to work. We're on a tight schedule. Thanks for your time. I went back to my project in the next room. Something about the meeting bothered me, but I pushed the troublesome thoughts from my mind. The greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, I sighed. If it has to be done, it has to be done. And I tried to forget about the whole thing. Later I heard that Michael Meisner, who had in fact been held prisoner, managed to gain the confidence of his guards and to escape from the motel. He did go to the FBI with his information which resulted in an FBI raid on the Church of Scientology a month later. As a result of this raid, 11 Scientologists were indicted and imprisoned, including Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue. Have you ever ordered or yourself committed genocide? That's clean. Have you ever annihilated a population? That's clean. Have you ever upset an ecology? That's clean. Have you ever practiced terrorism? That's clean. Have you ever bred bodies for degrading purposes? That's clean. Did you come to Earth for evil purposes? That's clean. Have you ever made a planet or nation radioactive? That's clean. Have you ever caused a planet to disappear? That's clean. Have you ever torn out someone's tongue? That's clean. Have you ever blinded anyone? That's clean. Have you ever smothered a baby? That's clean. Have you ever participated in a sexual relationship between a doll body and a human body? That's clean. ever made love to a dead body? That's clean. Have you ever tortured another with electrical or electronic devices? That's clean. Have you ever been a professional executioner? Clean. A brutal jailer? Clean. A corrupt judge? Clean. A wicked mother? Clean. A bad father? Clean. An abortionist? Clean. Have you ever abandoned your sick or dead to the enemy? That's clean. Have you ever failed to rescue your leader? That's clean. After over 300 such questions, we finished the check. Clean as a whistle, commented the ethics officer. You're ready to start your power. Good luck, he said as he initialed my power routing form. I got up. Well, I feel better, I told him. He looked up. I guess I never knew there were so many things I didn't do, I reflected. Sort of makes me feel good. I walked out of his office, glad to be finished with the strange questions, conditioned as I was to the bizarre and unusual from my very first day in Scientology. I dismissed the events of the day as just another step forward on the yellow brick road to total freedom. I felt like clicking my heels. Soon I would be in Oz. After finishing the clearing course, I gave my clear speech, something to the effect that I was happy to finally be at cause in my life without the burden of the reactive mind that I have been carrying around for thousands of years. OT1 consisted of one command: spot a person. I went to a local mall and spotted people for several hours until I came to a cognition and realized that I was different than any other person in the world. At which point I finished OT1. The songs about Scientology come from a very merry, unauthorized Scientology pageant, which I wish were available on DVD, but at least it's on CD, which I actually purchased from Amazon. I have 10 more clips for you from the book. Stay tuned because Margery is going to discover OT3.